Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so I have Andie Monet on the line, and she's CEO over at Strategic Solutions and Development International. Andie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be talking with you today, Adam.
All right, Andie. So first off, I got the intro right finally after how many takes? It's a long name, but I'm excited to get into strategic solutions, and we're going to talk about why you created the business, the types of businesses that you're helping, because you're doing a lot of great work, and really what your consulting is doing and the type of clients you work with. But before we get into that, I think we should kind of go a little bit further back and just look at, how did you get started in this world of business and consulting? Like how did all this start?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, this is a strange place to start, but it's important. I actually started college at 16 years old in physics and engineering, and I finished by the time I was 18. But I never actually did that as a career. I went straight into business. And so eventually I got my accounting and finance degree and my MBA. But I started early and I'm like, nobody can hold me back but myself, right? So by the time I was 20, I was already a manager at one of the big five accounting firms.
Wow.
And I was a senior executive with a Department of Defense contractor. And eventually, I actually was working overseas before I was 30, doing international, working for nations specifically to redevelop their whole economic and financial infrastructure. So I had a lot of academics and a lot of technical experience in business over the years.
Wow. What an amazing story. So at the age of 20, a manager already, number
Yes.
one. Number two, starting college so young. I mean, I feel like you have a quite a unique experience, but that being said, I feel like you also have a lot to share with maybe the youth of today that are going through this turbulence in this new world that we're looking at, whether it's the pandemic or whether all these other things that are going on. We're recording this in 2021 or Q1 of 2021. What kind of advice or what kind of message would you give maybe to the people that are either still in college or they're graduating, or maybe they're a couple years in their career and this is all new to them? It's a whole new world. What kind of things would you
Oh,
tell them?
yeah, absolutely. I will tell this to anybody, no matter what age they are, but especially the youth, is that it's okay to fail. Failing is actually a step in a direction as opposed to no direction. And
Hmm.
I know that sounds really fluffy, but you know what? If you're in a car and you're not driving, you can't change direction. You have to be moving to be able to change direction. And you have to be moving to experience, make mistakes, learn what you like, learn what you don't like, learn about yourself. I mean, please, if nothing else, it's okay to fail.
And this failure, I mean, this isn't going to be like easy. It's not going to feel good. It's not when you're going through it. I mean,
No.
there's no hope a lot of times. There's no, I mean, I'll on my end, I mean, I'm probably 20 businesses in, and finally I have one that works. Thank you. And I should be here for a while. But I mean, those other 19 or so since I was maybe 16, I mean, each one of those hurt. These are like your babies. This is like what you're kind of putting out into the world, and you have these
Yes.
hopes and all these other things. So let's go a little bit further, because I feel like we can't glance over just like you're gonna fail. I want some more there, because it's not easy to
No.
fail.
No, absolutely. I mean, I my first business, even though I was in the corporate world and I loved what I did, I
Mhm.
started my first business at 18, it failed. I started my second business at 19, it failed. I started my third business at 20, it failed. And I was, it's heartbreaking, right? Because who wants to go into business knowing that they're going to fail, right?
Yeah.
But you learn, well, especially with me, like you learn if you're willing to learn from
Mhm.
what didn't go right. That's where the magic happens. I mean, and you can apply this. I'm an athlete, so
Mhm.
it's easier for me to apply it to being an athlete. You're never going to win all the time, right? I mean, I've won't go into that whole thing, but I pretty much played almost every sport. I was a gymnast for years, ice skater, hockey, baseball, not football, but I said ice anyway. And now I'm a triathlete, but you're never going to win all the time. And so you have to learn how to, adjust your technique, or even if you're talking about Olympic athletes, 1 second makes you, go from gold medal to silver medal. And it's the same with business. There's
Right.
always ways you can improve it. There's always ways to learn, and there's always ways to fail. And that's not, again, it's not bad, right? My one of my biggest hurdle personally was, how do you be a salesperson when you're an introvert? Right? So that was a hard lesson to learn, and it took me years to figure that out. But not that there aren't others,
Hmm.
but the failing in the sense of knowing that there's a what, where there is a will, there's a way,
Hmm.
right? If you're dedicated, if you're committed, is something you really want in your heart, then do it. And it doesn't have to be a business. Like my daughter is 21 years old, and she doesn't like the business world. And if art is if your passion, then do it. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's easy to say now, but it's not so much a matter of how much money you make. It's what's
Hmm.
going to wake you up in the morning and give you inspiration and motivation to move forward with your day and your life. Things will come. So,
Man, I love that. And the other thing that I think is so unique about today's world is that you don't have to, just to take your daughter's example, so she doesn't have to necessarily like business, but if she's the creative side, guess what? She can partner with somebody or collaborate with somebody that does like the business side, but and doesn't like maybe or maybe not they don't like it, but they don't have the skill to do the creative side. And that's okay. And now this new world of business, of collaboration and working with each other, like I think about like my the other co-founder here, and he's the brains behind the media side of distribution. I don't necessarily like that part. I like the creative side. I can do the creative side, but the other part of it, I'm just like, like that's his deal. So like that's the idea, is that we can collaborate and we could still move the needle forward.
absolutely, absolutely. And in addition to that, I would even say, kind of going back towards businesses, some things you should learn, some
Mhm.
things you don't have to learn,
Mhm.
right? And being able to know the difference is sometimes really important. And
Mhm.
like for me, I don't have the time, energy, or patience to do my own digital marketing, but I
Mhm.
want to know enough where I at least have a direction, or being able to, I don't want to, for example, and this is just throwing out an example, but
Yeah.
like if it takes somebody 8 hours to do something and I get frustrated because it takes hours when I thought it should have taken one or two, that's not going to do either of us any good, right? And
Mhm.
so understanding at least the basics help me be a better owner, makes me a better manager, makes me a better, person overall. So, but you have to know where to draw that line.
Yeah, completely. Let's switch it up a bit. I do want to go into strategic solutions. So tell us a little bit more about the company and really, why you founded it.
Yeah, well, going on the topic of failure, I first of all, I already knew that I wanted to help people, and that's why I did the international work. I knew from an early age that I wanted to help people. And so after the academics and then the careers and then the failures in the other business, my current business, which has been in business for 11 years now, was really, I realized that I went through a lot
Mhm.
and no one helped me. I didn't have any mentors. I learned it all on myself. I mean, you talk about school of hard knocks. I'm one of, the banner bearers for that. And and I have such a compassion. I'm naturally a compassionate person. So my business really was to help small businesses avoid challenges if they could, minimize challenges if they couldn't avoid them, and even be able to foresee challenges as they grow.
Mhm.
Or with the pandemic, how can I help people get through this
Mhm.
pandemic with as little or no cost as possible? Because it's just it just breaks my heart what we're going through right now. And so anyway, but my business is really to help people. You don't know what you don't know, and it's scary, and it's stressing, and
Mhm.
you don't know who to turn to, and sometimes you don't even know what to ask, right? You can't go into Google and say, how do I improve my business? I mean, you can, but you're not going to get very good answers. And so
You're gonna get
really
whoever
the bottom
whoever
line.
bought those keywords is what you're gonna.
Exactly. You're going to get, and they're great consultants. Like any industry, there's always good and bad. So
Mhm.
who has the most money to get there on the top of Google? But
Yeah.
those aren't necessarily the right answers. And so again, just really my passion is being able to make a difference in the world. And for me, that was small business, because I knew that I could help, not only from personal experience, but from corporate experience as well.
Mm. Let's talk about the type of clients and your specialties and niches. So what's typically a good fit to work with you and your team?
My target market is really the businesses that have been in business for 2 to 5 years, and here's why. Because
Mhm.
when you're a startup, you're really just surviving, which I can also help. And that's why I do a lot of free consultations, and that's why I do a lot of the Instagram live and Facebook lives. But for paying
Mhm.
clients, 2 to 5 years is at that point where they're like, okay, I'm making money, but I
Mm.
don't know what to do next. I can pay my bills, but I don't have clarity as to what to do next, or how to improve processes or efficiencies,
Mhm.
or how to go beyond my bubble of what I know, right?
Mhm.
And so it when you branch out as a business into other areas or other industries, your bet, it's a bet, right? You could
Mhm.
lose, and you can lose a lot of money. So
Yeah.
being able to at least strategize why certain industries or certain ways to grow your business is going to help you in the long run, because you're not wasting time, energy, and money. So 2 to 5 years is really where I spend a lot of my time.
Any particular niches? So like type of company. So we get the size and where they're at and maybe their growth cycle. So pretty early on, you're working with clients. Any type of niches that you work with versus others?
Yes, generally speaking, labor intensive industries is where I
Mm.
really make a big difference. So professional services, doctors,
Mhm.
dentists, attorneys, although those are lawyers too, but also manufacturing, construction, software developers, people, industries where you need people to build your business and service to people. Although manufacturing, you're building a product, but it's still labor intensive, right? So
Mhm.
the more labor is where I really can hone in a lot of businesses.
Mm. So lots of different types of consulting, lots of different types of consultants. I mean, what makes what you do a little bit unique or special?
Oh my gosh. So I I love this because
Mhm.
when you hire a consultant, they're usually very niche, like only marketing or only processes or only
Mhm.
organizational, development or leadership or whatever the case is. And with me, going back, I'm super critical thinker. Engineering and quantum physics was my original passion. And so I mention that because when I go into a business, it's like an organism. It's like, don't treat the symptom, treat the problem. And so what one person says, hey, I think I need a business loan. And I'm like, yeah, no. so so that's just an external. So
Mhm.
I within you literally 1 day to a week, I can diagnose several key issues that can really impact your business. And my big thing is being able to see each division and each person, each process, and make it into a cohesive, like, living being, and then be able to pinpoint where it's going to make the biggest effort, the biggest impact on the company, both in sales and profit and efficiencies. And while what I do strategic stuff, so I just deal with one issue at a time. I
Mhm.
can tell you where all those issues are, and then we prioritize based on whatever the client's needs are. And a lot of times, besides strategically what can be improved, the
Mhm.
other thing is the cost. Like, if I don't want anybody to spend any more money than they have to, right?
Mhm.
That's the whole point of being strategic. Where can you, double your income without any additional cost, ideally?
Yeah.
And so again, the unique thing that I feel that I bring is being able to see all the pieces all at once and still be able to pinpoint where we can spend the most time to make a difference for your business.
What do you think? So there's some people watching this right now that maybe haven't gone down that path or haven't, of getting, I like to say, a fresh set of eyes on what they're doing. Because in my opinion, I mean, every time we've worked with somebody, every time we have somebody kind of look under the hood of our operation, like always great things happen. But there's some people that still haven't gone down that route. Like, what do you think kind of holds people back from understanding like the value proposition of having somebody that's worked with lots of businesses to kind of look under the hood and get a feel for
Oh
what's
yeah.
going on? Like, what holds people back?
Oh, super easy. I see it all the time.
Hmm.
And one is fear,
Mm.
fear of wasting money, fear of wasting time
Hmm.
on a consultant. Because if you don't know it, how are you going to know if somebody else is going to be able to help you,
Yeah.
right? It's just like when we take our car to the mechanic. If you don't know anything about cars, you're like, I don't know if you say so, right? And so a lot of people just base value on costs, which are
Mm.
totally different. So if I said to you, Adam, if you pay me $100,000,
Mhm.
which by the way, don't that's not normal, but let's just make it easier, $5,000,
Mhm.
I can get you 100 to $200,000 more in income. Who
Yeah,
wouldn't say yes to that, right? But if
exactly.
I can't place a value on the $5,000, why would you hire anybody,
Mhm.
right? And so to go back to the question, one is fear, right?
Mhm.
And then the other thing is, again, you just don't know. You don't know what you're getting. And
Mm.
so, well, my big thing when I talk to clients is finding out what they want,
Yeah.
telling them what are some opportunities, and then trying to really give them some concrete numbers, like, if it's gonna cost you 5,000, but this is gonna be the outcome. And
Mhm.
so then at least you have some expectation of what's going to happen with your company. And so another really small example is I had a real estate, I don't usually deal with property managers, but
Mm.
property manager said, "Hey, we need your help. You've been highly recommended. I don't care what it's going to cost, just fix it." And I
Mm.
said, like, okay. So as a property manager, they just doubled in size and they were going to double again. And they're like, "We
Wow.
don't even know what to do."
Mhm.
The short version of that story is I took the same 6 people they had on staff and they were able to double again with the still same people. They didn't have to hire anybody more. They didn't have to incur any additional costs, and they were able to grow to that level without being stressed about it, and having clarity in what they were going to do, how they were going to do it, what process they were going to put in place, and really a system for them.
Wow,
So
no, that's a great example, and it makes total sense, and it's something that you can only, like, you need that outside point of view. Like, there's no way that you're just going to come up with those ideas. And in this example, in a brainstorming session with 6 people that haven't dealt with doubling in size before and what that takes, and just the fact that you're able to do that, that's pretty miraculous in itself. So I understand that you also have a course that you teach, and you're also helping entrepreneurs kind of empower themselves. Tell us a little bit more about that.
yeah, absolutely. I'm all for, when at all possible, don't pay
Hmm.
anybody anything if you don't have to, which is really important for startups.
Hmm.
So I do every so often I do 5-day challenges with startup companies. I do a lot of free
Hmm.
Instagram Live and Facebook Live and Clubhouse Q&A, again, for anybody who just really needs some direction.
Hmm.
But I also, for the people that are more advanced, again, in that 2 to 5 year range, and they're like, "Look, I just need help. What do I need to do? How do I do it?" And I'm all about teach a person how to fish.
Hmm.
And so I have courses. I have a 30-day boot camp, and I have a 3-month deep dive, and then I have a few others. But it's really to give you the tools. They say, this is a tool. This is why it's important. This is how you use it, and you will be able to use this for the rest of your life. I mean,
Wow.
specifically in business, but you can apply things to your personal life as well. So, for example, I don't, so when my courses aren't about goal setting, they're about taking action,
Mm.
because it doesn't matter what plan or what goals you have. If you don't take those first steps, nothing's going to happen. Right. So, my courses are all about finding clarity, building a strategic plan, and taking action. And like, this is a big thing. You're responsible for your actions and you're accountable for your actions. And we check in with you.
Hmm.
Like, inside, what have you done? What did you want to do? And what did you accomplish? And if not, it's okay, but just know what the consequences are when you don't, take those actions towards the plan that we've developed for you.
And let's go. So I want to go further into the roadmap for strategic growth course specifically, because I maybe share some, some feedback that you've gotten from other students or things that you've seen, because this isn't, because what you're doing and what I want my audience to see is that this isn't just another like course, so to speak. Like, this is something that was really designed by you to move the needle on businesses after, 30 years of working with businesses, number one, but also working with many, mid-market plus size companies, so to speak. So like, you're really taking all this information and distilling, your knowledge, and making it something that can, for especially these 2 to 5 year, startups, can make some real change. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So mine, when I first tell people what I do, it sounds either not interesting or very difficult. I
Mm.
get very few people who really understand it. But the gist of it is like, as a 2 to 5 year old business owner, how do you now
Mhm.
use your financial statements as a management tool? How do you get the data that you need out of your business to, you know, um, maybe stop building a product, or maybe expanding a product, or expanding your market? And so I teach people how to read their business,
Mm.
is really what it comes down to. And reading your business has a lot to do with your financial statements, your sales, what are your average sales per customer or per product, or do you even know, like even on Shark Tank, do you know your numbers? Do you know what
Mhm.
your actual cost of goods sold are? And talking about numbers is not so sexy. I get it. But you know what? If you can double your income by knowing what your numbers are, it's going
Mhm.
to be worth it. And so I teach a lot of about what your sales cycle is and why it's important. What's your cash cycle? Why is it important? What's your operating cycle? What's your financial ratios tell about you? Are you
Mhm.
looking for a loan? Then you really need to know what your financials, because all business owners, they're like, I want a loan. Here are my financial statements, right? But they don't know what other people are looking at when they look at them. And
Yeah.
so it's such a stressing, panicking situation. And so know what your business does. And then I teach you the tools and the tech. First of all, the tools to know how to do it and what to look
Mhm.
for and what they mean. But then the next step, which is way more important, is what do you do about it?
Mm.
How do you improve it? What are the steps to go from, let's say $100,000 a year income to $200,000 a year income? And
Mhm.
I give you the tools to be able to identify that yourself with my help, but then it's something you're always going to be able to use, whether you're going from 100 to 200 or from 1 million to 2 million.
Mhm.
There's still the same tools. I mean, and I've even done this. Monster Energy is one of my biggest clients.
Mhm.
They're $4 billion. I still use the same thing with them,
Mm. Yeah.
so it's just on a different scale.
It's awesome. And so I know that you're also working on, so you do Facebook Lives, you're on Clubhouse. I mean, you're doing a lot for the business community just in general. Tell us, I want a last question, two-part question. So first thing is, I want people to connect. I want them to get your content. I want them to see what you're doing. So I know Facebook, Clubhouse. I mean, number one, tell us how people can connect. And then number two, I definitely want you to talk about the consultation that you're offering, please.
Yeah, the easiest way, well, I mean, everything says Andie Monet, which
Mhm.
is my name. So it's Andie Monet on Instagram, Andie Monet on Facebook. So that just makes it easy to find me. But the
Mhm.
way that I usually, if my preference is to just go to my roadmap for strategicgrowth.com. And not only does that give you the courses, but there's a strategy session button on that website. And so that gets on my calendar and then we can talk. And I love these strategy sessions because you're like, a lot of people, again, like you had mentioned before, they don't know if they really want this, right?
Mhm.
But they're not going to know unless they find out. And so what I love to do in my strategy sessions is to give you advice and support and guidance on how to move forward, whether or not you hire me, right?
Mm.
Let's get you at least a couple of steps forward
Mhm.
and see what you can do on your own. And if you want me to help you, great. And if you don't, no big deal. At least I've tried to help you. And so um, that's where you can find me,
Mhm.
easiest, I think. Um, and so, I mean, that's
A-
really it.
And
That's
in terms
just,
of the Facebook Lives and all that, how do people find that stuff? Because I don't want them to miss out on that too.
yeah, I mean, again, it's Andie Monet, and it usually has SSD, which are the acronyms for my business, which is
Perfect.
Strategic Solutions and Development. So anything with Andie Monet SSD, it's me. And plus, I
Awesome.
use the same picture on everything, so they, so it's the same. It's me with my blue dress and the brick background. It's the same picture across every platform I have, just so people don't, confuse me with somebody else. But
Amen.
yes,
This is
yeah.
fun, and this has been a lot of fun. Number one, I'm looking forward to getting on some of your Facebook Lives and also your Clubhouse fireside chats because I'm going to come ask you some questions because
No, I love
I,
it.
I want to benefit from some of this knowledge that you have too, and I'm excited to learn more about what you're doing and to continue to work with you and your community. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. And we hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget, hit that subscribe button. Want you to be a return viewer or listener, depending on where you're at right now. Definitely want you to do that. Have more great guests just like Andie coming up for you. And Andie, this has really been a pleasure. I'm
Oh,
so happy to bring what you're doing to my audience and how you're helping businesses.
yeah, all I want to do is help. We can all make a stronger community when we give back. So